All right, one more thing on Giannis trades is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. A little bonus episode for you. There are rumblings that Giannis could get traded this summer, and Howard Beck went on Zach Lowe's show and said that people around the league suspect that any potential list of preferred trade destinations from Giannis could include Miami. Let's have a listen.
I think it's the same thing with Milwaukee. Does Giannis ask out? If he does he have a list? I poked around a little bit a few days ago, and the initial thing I got from one person was just like, some rumblings that it's already just the big cities. It's one of the LA teams or one of the New York teams, or maybe Miami, not big market but glamour market, mid-sized market. I think they threw Chicago in there. I can't remember if Houston came up. It should. So first is like, where does Giannis want to go, and do they honor that?
So I want to jump right in to what the Heat can offer and then go from there. No surprise that Miami would potentially be on Giannis's list of preferred destinations. David Ramil and I talked on the full-length episode today of Locked On Heat about whether or not the Heat are still a destination for star players and what their pitch to potential star players could look like. So you'll probably want to listen to that in terms of, okay, can they convince Giannis to want to come to Miami? But this is good news for the Heat if they do want to get Giannis, which I would imagine, why wouldn't you want to get Giannis? This is good news. Considering that, look, I don't know how seriously to take this report. I'm not doubting Howard Beck's reporting at all. I am absolutely certain that he talked to somebody who said this, who's within the league. But there are a lot of steps to go through from where we are now to Giannis being on the trade block. I still think that the Bucks would have to be approached by Giannis in order to trade him. Even though I think that it's obvious that they need to trade him and should trade him, you just don't really see markets, especially small market teams, not Dallas, other than teams other than Dallas, I suppose. You don't really see teams just trade their best player, a once-in-a-generation player, the greatest player possibly in franchise history. You don't see him do it unless the star comes to the front office and says, get me out of here. So with that being the case, a lot of things have to go between now and then for Giannis to actually be a guy that could be available for Miami. But Howard Beck is right. People around the league are talking about this. This is a thing that people are wondering. It seems obvious that Milwaukee should trade him. And it seems obvious that Giannis could look around and say, I can't win here. And he's given comments to the New York Times and things like that in the past about, he would love to stay in Miami and stay in Miami. He would love to stay in Milwaukee, but if it becomes clear that he can't win and can't compete for championships there, that he would consider moving to another city. So, all right, we'll see what happens. But let's get right into what the Heat can actually offer if the Bucks were to start taking calls on Giannis. So the Heat are going to enter the draft this June with what amounts to essentially 3 tradable first-round picks. They can move the 2025 pick, the 20th pick coming over from Golden State. They can move that pick and then picks in 2030 and in 2032. So they'll have 3 tradable firsts and like 2 second-round picks, and they can't really do anything with swaps. They have $65 million in expiring salary and some interesting young players. I'm assuming that in any Giannis trade, Miami would want to keep Bam and Tyler Hero out of a deal. So the Bam part of it is obvious. You're not trading for Giannis just to have Giannis on the team. You're trading for Giannis to compete with Cleveland and with Boston in the Eastern Conference. So you got to think, all right, well, whatever team we have still after moving out pieces to get Giannis, we got to make sure that this team is better than what Giannis was just playing on in Milwaukee this year. Because we saw Giannis playing at an MVP level with that supporting cast in Milwaukee, and it wasn't good enough. So do we think that our supporting cast after a Giannis trade is better than the one he was just playing with in Milwaukee? And if you trade Bam in a Giannis deal, the answer is no, absolutely not. There's no way. The Bucks could ask for Bam. I don't know that they would. I think the Heat would keep him out. I think that would. There's just no way you can make that trade. I don't think. The other part of it is Tyler Hero. Some fans might roll their eyes at me for even suggesting that Tyler Hero is untouchable. I'm not saying Tyler Hero is untouchable. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying if you're trying to compete with Boston and with Cleveland and with Indiana and with New York and all these other teams at the top of the East, you got to think about the kinds of players you need around Giannis. And somebody who could space the floor like Tyler Hero, that is a necessity. If you don't have him on this roster, you become very limited offensively. And the idea here is to be a juggernaut. If you're trading for Giannis, you want a big three. You want a team that can win the finals. And Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and Giannis, I think, is a big three that could definitely compete near the top of the Eastern Conference. No question about it. But without one of those guys, it becomes a lot harder. It becomes a lot harder at that point. So assuming that Miami would want to keep Bam and Hero out of it, maybe they would, at push comes to shove, say, you know what? I guess we got to give up Tyler Hero in this deal. He is from the Milwaukee area. Maybe that means something to a small market team that isn't going to have their franchise star. They could try to have like a local draw, I guess. I don't know that Tyler Hero has a lot of friends left in Milwaukee because he famously left Milwaukee to go to Kentucky, and that was sort of a big deal. I don't know how many Bucks fans are actually paying attention to high school recruiting and college recruiting in that way, but whatever. I can see them talking themselves into it and asking for Tyler Hero in that deal. At the same time, Milwaukee might not even want Tyler Hero because of the money he's making and the fact that he's up for an extension, and they might say he's already 25, which is just the cusp of his prime. It feels young, but it's not really young for a rebuilding team that we're going to probably be building around 19 and 20-year-olds, and he's already 5 years older than those guys, and we're probably going to have to pay him $50 million a year in a couple of seasons. So they might not even want Tyler Hero. All right, so assuming Miami wants to keep Bam and Tyler Hero out of a trade, here's essentially, I figured out what the best offer that Miami can offer is. Here's the package, all right? Here's the package where I think this would be Miami's best offer and final offer. Andrew Wiggins, Duncan Robinson, Nikola Jovic, Kel'el Ware, 3 first-round picks, and the 2 seconds. So all the draft picks, all of it. 3 future firsts, the 2 future firsts rather, the 20th pick this June, the 2 seconds that they can move. It's just like, hey, throw them in there. You can have those too. I don't know how much Milwaukee cares, but here it is. Wiggins, who is the big chunky salary and kind of the headliner player going back, which again, if you're Milwaukee, you're probably you're probably looking to flip Wiggins right after that. It's like, can we get a first-round pick out of Wiggins? All right, let's do that. Maybe Miami can help facilitate that. With Duncan Robinson, Milwaukee would probably just waive him and then save $10 million. This is also a team that probably has to get a lot cheaper. So that's a $10 million savings right away. I think they would like that. And then Jovic and Ware, those are Miami's best, most interesting young players. They're probably going to lose Brook Lopez this summer anyway. So here's Kel'el Ware, center of the future. Nikola Jovic, really interesting young player. By the way, they can have Jaime and Pella if they want them, right? I don't even know if they would want those guys, but you want them, have them. It's fine. So that's it. That's the trade. Wiggins, Duncan, Jovic, Ware, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, and you can have one or both of Jaime and Pella if you want them. That would be a steal for Miami. For Giannis. It would be a steal. It would be an absolute steal for Miami. For Giannis. I don't think that gets it done. I think Houston is the biggest wild card here. For every star player, not just Giannis, they're the biggest wild card for Durant, for Devin Booker, for Ja Morant, for anybody, for all these Zion, for all these guys. If the Rockets decide that they want to push their chips in and make some sort of consolidation trade and use some of this draft capital to go get a star player, they can beat every offer, not just from Miami, but from every other team. They have the stuff. Oklahoma City also lingering. They just lost to Denver in game 1. If they lose in this second round, they could be looking to make changes. That would be 2 second-round losses in a row for a number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They would absolutely possibly be looking to change some things up. And why wouldn't you go after a guy like Giannis, right? That's the kind of guy that could put you over the top, no doubt about it. So they could beat, with their bazillion picks, they could beat whatever offer at Miami or these other teams put together. So Houston and OKC are just sort of lingering over here as put your best offer down. We can beat it pretty easily with like 40% of the stuff that we have. But the other part of this is Giannis. That's the other part of this equation. It's not necessarily a Kevin Durant situation where Durant will be a free agent in 2026. It could rather easily call his shot and just say, hey, look, you can trade for me, but I'm not re-signing with you, and do that whole Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox thing. Giannis is more similar to Dame, where he's got 3 years left on his contract, just signed that extension that kicks in this coming year. And it's like, all right, like we could just trade you. The Bucks could just trade him anywhere and say, you guys could deal with it, but you have him under contract for 3 more years, and you probably feel pretty good about it. We saw Milwaukee do that with Damian Lillard, right? They said, we don't really care that he doesn't want to be here. He's under contract. We're going to try to get the most out of him. But I don't know. Damian Lillard was also really bad at trying to get where he wanted to go. I don't think there's any question about that. If you want to place blame for anywhere, I think a lot of Heat fans blame Pat Riley for not getting Damian Lillard, and they certainly deserve blame. This front office gets a lot of blame. I also blame Damian Lillard and his agent for royally screwing it up. That thing that these other star players managed to do, they did not do it. So maybe Giannis is just better at it. Maybe him and his agent, Octagon Sports, maybe they're just better at it than Dame and his agent were. So that's possible. And maybe they're able to strong arm their way to Miami. That feels like the only way the Heat actually get a Giannis deal done. Otherwise, I think the Knicks could beat Miami's offer. The LA teams, not really. I don't see a viable path. Brooklyn, not really. They have some picks, but they don't have any players. And then it's like, okay, we got Giannis and Cam Thomas. Like Trendon Wofford. Like we don't really have anything to build around. So I don't think Brooklyn makes any sense. It just doesn't work for the life cycle of their team building process that they're in right now. For Miami, they would obviously love to get Giannis. But to get Giannis and to win with Giannis, you'd probably need Bam and Tyler Hero still on the team. Certainly Bam, if not definitely Tyler Hero. But you would have to have at least one of those guys, probably both of those guys. And because of that, I don't know that you can get this deal done. And I don't know that Milwaukee wants any of those guys anyway, because once Giannis is out of there, they're going full-scale rebuild, and those guys don't really make sense for a team in that position. So I know that they don't have their own picks, but Milwaukee doesn't. They owe their picks to New Orleans. So maybe they don't want to do a full-scale rebuild. Maybe they still want to be a little competitive, but it's one thing to remain competitive. It's another thing to have to pay some of these guys what they're going to pay if you don't think that they're centerpiece of your future. So I don't know. It depends on what Milwaukee wants, but ultimately I think it would be a pretty big upset if Giannis ended up in Miami. But crazier things have happened in the NBA. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night, until an NBA champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts.